The guardian at the gate. Why your body won't let you rest. The sentinel that never sleeps. You light the candle, dim the lights, cross your legs. The meditation begins. Find your center, they say. Let go. But as you close your eyes, something ancient stirs. Not peace, not calm, but a guardian, standing at the gates of your consciousness, sword drawn, eyes scanning the horizon. You came for stillness, but you've awakened the sentinel. What if I told you this guardian isn't your enemy? What if the one blocking your path to peace has been protecting you all along? What if every failed meditation, every anxious breath, every moment your body refused to surrender wasn't weakness, but wisdom, ancient cellular wisdom that knows something you've forgotten, that once upon a time, letting your guard down meant annihilation. See, deep within your nervous system lives an ancient watchman, forged in the fires of your earliest storms, trained in the school of survival, graduated with honors from the University of Hypervigilance, and this guardian has one sacred duty, to never let danger catch you sleeping again. It stands at the threshold between your conscious mind and your primal body, translating every signal, evaluating every silence, measuring every stillness against a database of threats you don't even remember collecting. In 2025, neuroscience confirms what mystics have long suspected. Those who cannot rest often carry the most vigilant protectors. Not because they're weak, but because once upon a time, vigilance was the only thing that kept them alive. The latest research from Harvard's Trauma Research Center shows that 73% of people with meditation resistance have nervous systems stuck in what they call Sentinel mode, a state of perpetual watchfulness that served them in chaos but imprisons them in calm. So, when you sit to meditate, you're not just asking for quiet. You're asking a warrior to lay down arms. You're telling a sentinel who's never known rest that the war is over. You're whispering to a guardian who's counted every breath as a potential last breath, that it's safe to stop counting. But how do you convince a protector that's been standing watch for decades, through every betrayal, every violation, every moment of unsafety, that it's finally safe to close the gate? This isn't a story about forcing peace. It's about honoring the protector, understanding its language, learning its songs of vigilance, and slowly, gently, teaching it a new way to serve. Because the guardian at your gate isn't broken. It's loyal, loyal to a fault, loyal to exhaustion, loyal to the point of turning sanctuary into prison. And loyalty that deep deserves more than dismissal. It deserves recognition. It deserves a ceremony. It deserves to be seen, heard, and finally, when trust is earned, transformed. Concept 1. The fortress built from necessity. Every fortress tells a story, not of strength, but of what once threatened to break through. Walk through any ancient castle, and you can read its history in stone. Here, where the walls are thickest, the attacks were fiercest. There, where the towers are tallest, the need for vigilance was greatest. Your body is no different. Those walls of tension, those locked doors of resistance, those moats of dissociation, they weren't built from weakness. They were built from wisdom. The wisdom of a child who learned that letting guard down meant getting hurt. The wisdom of a heart that discovered vulnerability meant betrayal. The wisdom of a nervous system that memorized every pattern of incoming pain and built defenses accordingly. Think of a medieval castle under siege. Every architectural decision was born from blood, someone's blood, spilled when defenses failed. The higher the walls, the deeper the fear that created them. The thicker the gates, the more violent the memory of invasion. The narrower the windows, the more arrows once flew through wider ones. And your body? It's been building fortifications since the first time safety failed you. That chronic shoulder tension that rises like battlements, that's a drawbridge that never fully lowers. That shallow breathing that never quite deepens. Arrow slits, just enough air to survive, never enough to be caught off guard. That inability to just relax that everyone keeps telling you to overcome, that's not failure. That's architecture, the architecture of survival. The blueprint of someone who learned that fortresses keep you alive when faith in others gets you killed. I knew a woman once. Let's call her Catherine. She came to meditation after years of anxiety that medication couldn't touch, therapy couldn't reach, and positive thinking couldn't penetrate. Every session ended the same way. Panic, tears, departure. "I'm broken," she'd say, gathering her things with shaking hands. "Everyone else finds peace. I find terror." She'd tried everything. Guided meditations, silent retreats, breathwork that left her gasping, body scans that made her want to crawl out of her skin. The harder she tried to find calm, the more her body revolted. But Catherine wasn't broken. She was fortified. Years of living with an unpredictable mother had taught her nervous system a crucial lesson. Calm precedes storm. Silence precedes violence. The moment you drop your guard is the moment everything falls apart. Her mother's patterns were etched into Catherine's cells. The terrifying quiet before the rage, the false sweetness before the cruelty, the momentary peace that always shattered into chaos. So, when meditation asked her to let go, her body heard, "Lower the drawbridge." And every cell in her being screamed, "No." Because last time the drawbridge lowered, the kingdom fell. Last time she trusted stillness. Stillness betrayed her. Last time she believed in peace. Peace was the trap that violence used to catch her unaware. Concept 2. The Guardian's ancient tongue. The Guardian at your gate speaks a language older than words, older than thought, older than the prefrontal cortex that's trying so hard to override it with mantras and affirmations. It doesn't understand, "I am safe now." It doesn't respond to, "Just breathe." It doesn't care about your meditation app's soothing voice or your therapist's logical explanations. It speaks in the primal tongue of the body: rhythm, temperature, pressure, proximity, vibration, chemical signals that flood your system faster than consciousness can catch them. And until you learn to speak its language, no amount of modern mantras will grant you passage. This ancient tongue was written in your cells before you could speak, before you could think, before you even knew you were a separate being from the world around you. When you were an infant, before language ever touched your lips, your body was already learning that certain tones meant danger, the sharp edge in a voice that preceded pain, that certain silences meant abandonment, the absence that felt like death to a nervous system that needed co-regulation to survive, that certain touches meant violation, hands that should have protected but harmed instead, that certain presences meant protection, or its terrifying absence. This education happened in the wordless realm, in the rise and fall of cortisol, in the flooding of adrenaline, in the freeze of dissociation, in the biochemical alphabet of survival that your body learned to read before your mind learned letters. Your guardian learned its craft not through instruction, but through inscription. Every threat carved its wisdom directly into your nervous system. Every moment of unsafety became a line of code in your body's operating system. Every betrayal wrote itself into your musculature. Every abandonment encoded itself in your breathing patterns. And now, decades later, the Guardian still reads from this ancient text, still follows these primal instructions, still speaks this wordless language that your conscious mind cannot override with pretty words or good intentions. There was a man I worked with, Samuel, a successful executive who couldn't understand why meditation made him angry, not frustrated, furious. 20 minutes into any session, rage would rise like bile, hot and choking. He'd tried everything, different apps with different voices, different teachers from different traditions, different techniques from mindfulness to transcendental. Nothing worked. The anger always came, reliable as clockwork, turning what should have been peaceful into something that felt like battle. Until one day, during a particularly difficult session where he'd promised himself he'd sit through the anger no matter what, he heard it. Not with his ears, but with his body. The meditation teacher's voice, soft, gentle, coaxing, sounded exactly like his father's. The same father who would speak in honeyed tones right before the violence began. "Come here, son. Let's have a talk." Those gentle words always preceded pain. The reasonable tone that meant unreasonable punishment was coming. The false calm that was just the eye of the storm. So now, decades later, when a meditation guide whispered, "Let yourself soften," Samuel's guardian heard the old trap, the ancient warning, the primal run. His body wasn't being difficult. It was being loyal to patterns of protection that had once saved him from worse harm. Concept 3. The Guardian's Vigil. Your guardian never sleeps, never takes a break, never goes off duty. This isn't pathology, it's loyalty. A loyalty so fierce, so absolute, that it would rather exhaust you than let harm slip through again. It would rather keep you anxious and alive than relaxed and vulnerable. It would rather have you hate it for its vigilance than lose you to its negligence. Understanding this changes everything. Because you stop seeing resistance as rebellion, you start seeing it as devotion, misplaced perhaps, outdated certainly, exhausting absolutely, but devotion nonetheless. Consider the soldier who returns from war. He's home now, safe. The war is over, they tell him. The documents are signed, the enemies are gone, the weapons are laid down. But his body hasn't received the message. Every backfiring car is gunfire. Every crowded room is an ambush waiting to happen. Every unexpected movement is a threat to be neutralized. His family says he's paranoid. His friends say he needs to relax. But his guardian knows better. His guardian remembers what happens when you believe the war is over. That's when they attack. That's when vigilance drops and people die. That's when trust gets you killed. His guardian is still on duty, still scanning, still protecting. Not because it's broken, but because no one ever officially relieved it from its post. No one ever said, with authority the body could trust, "Your watch has ended, you can rest now." And even if they did, why should the guardian believe them? It's seen too many false pieces, too many broken ceasefires, too many moments when safe turned into ambush in a heartbeat. So, it stays at its post, loyal beyond reason, protective beyond exhaustion, vigilant beyond the point where vigilance helps. This is what trauma does. It posts guardians at every gate, breathing, feeling, resting, trusting, and never tells them the siege has lifted. So, they stand there, year after year, decade after decade, turning away anything that resembles the old enemy, including peace, especially peace. Because in the Guardian's experience, peace is just the calm before storms. Peace is when vigilance drops and predators strike. Peace is the luxury of those who've never needed guardians. Peace is the lie that gets you killed. But here's what changes everything. The Guardian isn't trying to torment you. It's trying to protect you. Every moment of hypervigilance, every failed meditation, every racing heart in the quiet, that's not your body betraying you. That's your guardian doing exactly what you once needed it to do. Keeping watch, staying ready, never letting the walls fall again. The tragedy isn't that you have a guardian. The tragedy is that the guardian doesn't know the war is over. It doesn't know you've grown strong. It doesn't know you've moved to safer ground. It only knows its duty. Never again. Never again will danger catch you sleeping. Never again will trust lead to betrayal. Never again will peace be the trap that harm uses to find you. Concept 4. Earning safe passage. You cannot storm your own gates. You cannot overpower your own guardian. You cannot use force against a protector whose entire existence is about defending against force. Force only confirms what it already believes, that the world is full of violence, even from within. Violence is its language, and if you speak violence, even the violence of forcing yourself to relax, you only strengthen its conviction that its vigilance is justified. Instead, you must approach like a trusted friend returning from a long journey, slowly, openly, speaking the passwords the guardian recognizes. Not the password of words, but of presence. Not the password of demands, but of patience. Not the password of override, but of understanding. The first password is acknowledgement, not the hollow acknowledgement of, "I see you're anxious, now please stop," but the deep recognition of service. Place your hand on your chest and feel the sentinel there, the one that tightens when strangers get too close, the one that won't let you sleep deeply, the one that scans every room for exits, the one that reads every face for danger. Don't try to dismiss it, thank it. I see you there, standing watch. I know you've been protecting me. I know you've never rested. I know every moment of vigilance has been in my service. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom. Because guardians that are seen often step aside. It's the invisible ones that fight the hardest. It's the unacknowledged protectors that become tyrants. The second password is patience. Your guardian has been on duty for years, maybe decades. Some guardians have been standing watch since before you could form memories, installed in your nervous system when you were pre-verbal, pre-conscious, purely somatic. It won't abandon its post because of a single meditation app or a weekend retreat. It won't trust a few sessions of forced calm. Trust is earned in increments, in small gestures repeated over time, in the consistency of showing up and saying, "I'm not here to destroy you, I'm here to understand you. I'm not here to force you to stand down. I'm here to learn why you stood up in the first place." Each time you sit, not demanding peace but simply being present with the resistance, you earn a little more trust. The guardian watches, waits, tests, checks if this new approach is just another trick, another trap, another way of trying to sneak past its defenses. And slowly, session by session, breath by breath, It begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, you're not the enemy. Maybe you're not trying to leave the kingdom undefended. Maybe you actually understand why the walls went up. Maybe you can be trusted with the story of why the Guardian took its post and why it's never left. The third password is respect. Deep, genuine respect for the Guardian's service. Respect for its vigilance. Respect for the years it stood watch while you slept, worked, loved, lived. This Guardian gave up its own peace so you could survive. It sacrificed its own rest so you could function. It carried the burden of perpetual alertness so some part of you could engage with life. This Guardian has been holding the trauma so you didn't have to feel it all at once. It's been standing between you and the full weight of what happened. It deserves more than dismissal. It deserves more than being pathologized as anxiety or demonized as resistance. It deserves a proper changing of the guard, a ceremony, a recognition, a gentle passing of the torch from old protector to new wisdom. Concept 5, the changing of the guard. There comes a moment, not forced, not rushed, but arrived at through patience and recognition, when the old Guardian finally understands. The war it's been fighting ended long ago. The enemies it's been watching for have aged into ghosts. The dangers it's been defending against exist now only in memory. The fortress it's been defending houses someone who's grown strong enough to protect themselves in new ways. This isn't defeat, it's evolution. The Guardian doesn't disappear, it transforms. It doesn't die, it graduates to a new role. I witnessed this once with a client named Maria. For months, we'd been working with her body's resistance to rest. Every relaxation technique met the same Guardian. Jaw clenched like a vice, fists tight as stones, shoulders raised like shields, breath shallow as a barely open gate. We didn't fight it, we honored it. We asked it questions. What are you protecting? What do you remember? What are you afraid will happen if you let go? And slowly the Guardian began to tell its story through sensations, through memories that arose, through patterns that revealed themselves. Then one day, something shifted, not dramatically, quietly, like the changing of light at dawn. She was sitting, breathing, not trying to relax, but simply being with whatever was there. And suddenly her hands opened. Not because she told them to, but because the Guardian finally believed it could let go without letting her fall. Her shoulders dropped, not into collapse, but into support, finding the chair beneath her. Her breath deepened, not into vulnerability, but into resource, finding strength in its fullness. She wept, not from sadness, but from recognition. The Guardian wasn't gone. It had simply moved from the gates to the garden, from sword-bearer to witness, from protector to companion, from hypervigilance to wise awareness. This is the sacred transition. The Guardian learns a new role. Instead of blocking peace, it becomes the one who notices when peace is real versus forced. Instead of preventing rest, it becomes the one who ensures rest happens in truly safe spaces. Instead of fighting connection, it becomes the one who helps discern which connections are worth allowing. The warrior becomes the wise counselor. The sentinel becomes the sage. The protector becomes the discerner. All that hypervigilance transforms into profound sensitivity. Not the kind that overwhelms, but the kind that informs. But this transformation requires something profound. You must become trustworthy to your own Guardian. You must prove that you'll take care of what it's been protecting, that you won't be careless with the tender territories it's been defending, that you've learned to recognize danger without needing constant vigilance, that you've grown strong enough to hold both vulnerability and power, that you understand boundaries not as walls but as intelligent membranes, that you can say no when needed and yes when safe, that you've developed new ways of protecting yourself that don't require armor. The Guardian needs to see that you've grown up, that you've learned its lessons, that you can carry its wisdom forward in new forms. Concept 6, the new alliance. When the Guardian finally trusts you, when the changing of the guard is complete, something miraculous occurs. The very sensitivity that once trapped you becomes your greatest gift. The hypervigilance transforms into profound presence. The anxiety becomes intuition. The fortress becomes a temple. The prison becomes a sanctuary. And meditation stops being a battle and becomes a homecoming. Not the false homecoming of bypassing your history, but the true homecoming of including all of who you are. This isn't the meditation sold in apps and workshops. This isn't the forced calm of positive thinking or the artificial peace of spiritual bypassing. This is something deeper, something earned, something that includes rather than excludes your history. It's the meditation of someone who's made peace with their protector, who's honored their history, who's integrated their guardian rather than trying to exile it. In this meditation, you don't bypass the body. You include it as a wise counselor. You don't silence the guardian. You listen to its transformed wisdom. You don't demand stillness. You create conditions where stillness naturally arises because safety is genuinely present. The guardian, now transformed, becomes your greatest ally in this practice. It notices when you're pushing too hard and whispers, "Slow down. Force is the old way." It senses when you're forcing peace and suggests, "Let it come naturally. We don't need to perform calm anymore." It feels when you're truly safe and finally says, "Rest now. I'll keep gentle watch." But this watch is different. It's not the hypervigilance of trauma, but the relaxed awareness of wisdom. It's not scanning for danger, but noticing what's actually present. It's not braced for attack, but available for connection. This integration creates a new kind of strength. You become someone who can be soft without being weak, open without being unprotected, vulnerable without being victimized, restful without being negligent, present without being hypervigilant. The guardian's gifts, its sensitivity, its awareness, its protective instincts remain but transformed. You haven't lost your edge, you've refined it. You haven't dropped your awareness, you've expanded it. You haven't become naive, you've become wise. The guardian's legacy lives on, not as a tyrant but as an advisor, not as a prison warden, but as a wise friend who knows when to speak up and when to rest. Call to action. Your guardian awaits. So here we stand, at the threshold of understanding. You didn't fail at meditation. You met your guardian. You didn't lack discipline. You honored an ancient protector. You didn't resist peace. You respected the one who's been keeping watch. And now you know the truth. The path to peace doesn't require you to storm your own gates. It requires you to make friends with the one who guards them. It requires you to understand that every moment of resistance was actually a moment of protection. Every failed attempt at forcing calm was actually your guardian saying, "Not this way. There's something we need to address first." Your guardian is waiting, not to block you, but to be seen, not to fight you, but to be understood, not to torment you, but to finally, after all these years, be thanked for its service and offered a new role. The question isn't, how do I get rid of my resistance? The question is, how do I honor my protector while teaching it that its job has changed? The question isn't, why can't I meditate? But what is my guardian protecting me from? And how can I address that underlying need for safety? Start here. Start now. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the guardian there, in the tension, in the breath, in the heartbeat that quickens when you try to be still. And speak the words it's been waiting decades to hear. I see you. I thank you. Your service is honored. You've kept me alive when life was dangerous. You've kept me alert when alertness was necessary. You've kept the walls up when walls were all that stood between me and harm. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, I'd like to show you that the one you've been protecting has grown strong. Strong enough to share the watch, strong enough to know when rest is safe, strong enough to transform fortresses into gardens. This is your invitation, not to perfect peace, but to profound alliance, not to forced calm, but to earned trust, not to meditation as others know it, but to meditation as your guardian allows it. The kind of meditation that includes your history rather than denying it. The kind that honors your protectors rather than fighting them. The kind that transforms vigilance into wisdom rather than trying to eliminate it. And that meditation, that's worth more than all the apps in the world, because it's yours, earned through honoring your history, built on the foundation of your own transformed protection, sacred in its recognition of all you've survived. The guardian at your gate has kept you alive. Now it's time to let it help you live. Not just survive, but thrive. Not just protect, but connect. Not just defend, but expand. The guardian knows how to keep you safe. Now it's time to teach it how to let you be free. And freedom, when it includes the wisdom of the guardian, is freedom that lasts. Freedom that's wise. Freedom that includes rather than excludes your history. Freedom that transforms trauma into wisdom, vigilance into awareness, protection into discernment. Your guardian has been waiting for this moment. The moment when someone finally understands its service. The moment when someone finally speaks its language. The moment when someone finally offers it a new way to serve. That someone is you, and that moment is now.